Well, g'day. Bit of a early summer storm we've got this afternoon. Hopefully you can hear me just fine. Maybe yeah, you can still hear it on the old tin roof. Anyway, some of you who've been following me for a little bit will know that I'm not just about the flat earth, and that's not going to work. Just trying to adjust the camera up slightly here. Now, we just have to deal with it as it is. It's all good. It's all good, man. Not just about the flat earth. I've got a lot of other agendas, and I just happened to watch yet another video, and I think it's one of the most pressing matters, as it's always been, and it's to do with money. Now, we rely upon money. It's the way that society has been shaped up to this point. And generally speaking, most of us are pretty just darn clueless as to what money is. And you could... well, we know what it does. It's a bit like gravity, isn't it? Well, we don't know what it is, but we can tell you what it does, and what it does is it controls people. It's a control method. It may as well be called a point system or a bone for your dog system. We're the dogs, and we get given bones because we're good dogs, because we behave according to certain specifics. We apply our skills to whatever, and we get given lots of bones that make us feel good, and we can exchange those bones for other things. All the mod cons of the modern world. So originally money was gold, and then a gold standard was basically something that was minted, an amount of gold into a coin, so it was an exact amount of weight, and then it was stamped with the seal of the governor or the Caesar or whoever at the time was, and so you knew that it was an exact amount of gold. That's the idea of it. That's why you've got their stamp of approval onto it, and that became a coin. It was minted. Then you've also got the silver, which is a lot less valuable, and so you would have, say, for example, a pound of sterling silver. That's where the English gets its currency from, still to this day. And of course, if you took a nick of that off, whatever weight that was, it became a nickel, but it was still silver. So it was considered a precious metal, second to gold, which is the precious metal. Now, why that is, that's a story for another day. The fact is that that is what we decided was a standard of value and valuable mineral, and a standard by which then you could set a price for all other things, whether it be services, goods, a plot of land, you name it. That's what it's for. And then somewhere along the line, somebody clever decided that instead of carrying around a heap of heavy coin, they could write it down on a piece of paper that on presentation of this note, I will pay the bearer 10 gold coins, 20 gold coins, 50 gold coins, whatever the amount written on the note. And you could be very specific. You can make it 27.5 gold coins. You can maybe make smaller coins for denominations. And so this note became the promissory note, which people then tended to accept as a standard of real gold. So you could present this note to the bank from which it was drawn, for the man with the wealth and the gold that was being kept in the bank, and you could draw out that gold, and so you had money. So the note, the promissory note, was never the money. It was a promise to pay. And that is pretty much what the dollar standard is today. It's not anything of wealth. It's a promise to pay. It's a promissory note. So in fact, it's a debt note. It's a debt from somebody to another. So you're passing one person's debt to another person to another. In fact, there's a very great story about the traveling salesman who wanders into a town and he's looking to stay somewhere for the night. He goes into the motel and he says, puts $100 on the desk and said, I'd like to go and inspect the room, and if it's up to my standards, then I'll take it for the night, and that's how much I'll pay for it. And so the motelier says, oh, that's terrific, no problem. Meanwhile, while the man goes to check out his room, the motelier races off to the butcher's, because the motelier has a restaurant in his establishment, and he'd been running up quite a large bill with the butcher for meat which he'd been telling the customers, and so he owed the butcher $100, so he gives the butcher $100. The butcher says, oh great, well you've paid all your debts now, you owe me nothing. Meanwhile, the butcher, he'd been having a thing on the side with a local lady of the streets, and he owed her $100, so he quickly races around to see her, gives her the $100, and she says, oh that's great, now you owe me nothing, we're all good and sweet. Meanwhile, the lady of the street, she'd been using the motel on a regular basis, and she'd run up a bill with the motelier of $100. So she goes back to him, back to the motel, and she says, oh, here's the money I owe you for the rooms I've been using by the hour over the past month. And the motelier says, oh good, then now we no longer have any debt, we're all square. By that stage, the salesman says he's not really happy with the room. He sees his $100 sitting on the desk, he picks it up and he leaves town. Now he's just settled a whole bunch of debt. Nobody's any the better off, but everybody is debt free. That's the debt system for you. It's just an exchange of a promise to pay with nobody actually getting anything except the services that they got in the first place. So the motelier got his meat, the butcher got his piece of meat, the lady got a place to do business. There was never any money involved, it's all just in here, it's an illusion. Now, being an Australian, of course, and knowing that it's based on the gold, and the gold has to be extracted from the ground, well, there's a far better way to extract wealth from the ground. And Australia, of course, well, Aulimoroa, which is where this is eventually going to go to. This is just an introduction still. I'm still working on writing out the full thesis and everything that's going to go into the structure of Aulimoroa, the kingdom of Aulimoroa. But Aulimoroans can extract wealth from the ground with their own solar plant, and that solar plant is hemp. Hemp. Cannabis sativa, cannabis, what's it, indica? I think for a second, it's been a while since I've been involved with the strains, but hemp is basically plain old cannabis sativa with very, very little THC in it. But my attitude is, I don't care about how much THC. The more the better, the less the better, it doesn't matter. It's got billions of different uses. So by planting the fields with hemp, we're extracting real wealth out of the ground, and it's the sort of wealth that any man can extract. That's why they banned it, because it is the single most valuable solar power value extractor from the earth known to mankind. That's what it's always been. It's always about the hemp. So the green, gold, colours of Aulimoroa, the Aulimoroan flag is the replica of the indigenous people's flag of Australia, but the colours have changed. Instead of having the red to represent the ground and black to represent the sky and the sun in the middle, we'll keep the golden sun because that's the powerhouse of everything, and we have green to represent the land and blue to represent the sky. So we're going to clear the skies, we're going to green the land, and we're going to be all very wealthy because we can grow our own money. Yes, the green gold. The medicinal gold is going to be the highest value. You've got the fibre, which is how we'll be making our clothing, our tablecloths, our seating, our furniture, our curtains, rugs, everything that's made from fibre can be made from hemp, and it will last 10 times longer than any other form of manufactured product. So we're building wealth to last. We're building quality products, not this disposable society anymore. The oil from the seed is one of the most nutritional oils of all time, to be used in cooking and in salads and in our diet. And also it has industrial purposes as well, so we can not get enough of it. Oil grown from the ground, powered by the sun. This is the free energy that they've been suppressing from us all this time. We can run every single diesel engine on hemp oil. It needs no refining. Just press it, jam it into your tractor, jam it into your car. It is the future that they've suppressed from us, because they're always suppressing us. Whatever they give us as a new promise of something great, I can guarantee you it is something far worse. The electric vehicle, you're burning coal to create the power thousands of miles away into your battery for a couple of 100 kilometres of transport. That is the ridiculous. How can humanity possibly be so stupid to accept electric vehicles? So stupid. Absolutely stupid. Well, we could technically replace the coal with hemp, so it's not entirely stupid. But they have to have lithium batteries. There's only a finite amount of lithium. Lithium is going to be the next gold. That's what they do. Well, we've run out of gold. What can we make the next gold? Well, we'll make it lithium. Make everybody have a high demand for batteries. If you can't see how we're being played at every step of the way, when the wealth could be ours, we can take it back. And the way we take it back is through solar power plants. Literal, grow in the ground plants. The hemp plant rescues the soil. It sends roots deep, 6 foot into the ground. It extracts nutrients that most crops can't touch. It doesn't need excessive water. It usually doesn't need any extra at all. It doesn't need pesticides or herbicides. So we can go back to being a bit more natural and stop being so toxic. Because when our clothes and our food and everything we consume is toxic, it gets into our system and it makes our brains toxic. You are what you eat. We have to get rid of the toxins, and those toxins were one of the very reasons that they banned hemp in the first place. The multiple reasons they banned hemp. Cotton required a lot of toxins to grow, and it doesn't last for as long, so you need to keep replacing the clothes made from cotton, the denim jeans. It all used to be hemp, and they'd last forever. The grandfather shirts made from hemp last for generations. Things from hemp, you don't need to replace so much. Life was slower back then. Things went slower, things lasted longer, and that's the way it should be. We're in this disposable society where the amount of money a person can spend in a single day, a man 100 years ago might not have spent in a single lifetime. And that's all because of the system of usury. When this money is lent out, it is lent at interest, not your interest, their interest. They're interested in you slowly paying it back, because over time, let's say you borrowed 10 coins of gold in whatever form, promissory notes or whatever, then by the time you paid it back over 10 years with interest, you've paid back 30 coins of gold. So it's very much in their interest to keep you in debt and paying back a little at a time, and constantly in debt and indebted and in servitude to keep paying off these debts. Whereas if we grow our green gold from the ground, every single person can live debt-free forever. And if you want to be more wealthy, grow more green gold, because it can be turned into everything. You name it: plastics, paints, fuel, food, the most nutritious food, medicine, all from hemp. But what has the petroleum industry given us? Pharmaceutical industry. Pharma means poison. It's the poison industry. And big oil is the number one reason why hemp was banned in the first place, because it was the big competitor. Oh, a farmer can grow 1,000 acres of hemp oil. How can that compete against our barrels of oil that we're extracting from the ground? We want to make that our number one reason that people are running their cars to get to work, to make the money, to buy the shit they don't even need. It's all oil. Cotton, for the massive amounts of spray, the paper, the wood chipping industry to make pulp paper, whereas hemp paper was used for hundreds, if not thousands of years, a far better quality paper that still lasts to this day, whereas our crap paper, a few years at the best. They're the big ones. Cotton, oil and paper. It was the paper barons who controlled the media in the US who pushed the big scare of this rapist's drug. I'm sure you're all well aware of how hemp accidentally or incidentally became criminalized, because they, instead of calling it hemp, they used the Mexican name, which actually applies to a wild Mexican tobacco, but they also used it for hemp, for the sweet flowers Mary Jane. It's a lovely name for a lovely person, because the sinsemilla or sinsemilla was the good stuff that made you happy, made everybody happy, and healthy. So they took the Mexican name for Mary Jane, marijuana, and they pushed it through Congress, and they convinced 250 odd congressmen that this was an evil drug, inciting the black men to rape our innocent white women, and all this sort of crap. Was really, it was the peaceful alternative to the alcohol that the jazz musicians were using, so it was very much racially oriented as well. And so the congressmen, not knowing, thinking that it was a sort of wild Mexican tobacco, did not realize they were banning hemp. And hemp at the time accounted for up to 80% of all the world's tradable goods. You know what the word canvas comes from? Dutch word for cannabis. Canvas is cannabis. It's hemp. All the great artists in the world painted on hemp, painted on canvas. Cannabis. All the sails in the world, the first plant Captain Cook planted when he hit New Holland, as it was known back then, Terra Australis, was hemp, to grow more ropes and sails. That's why it used to grow wild in the Hunter region down where I grew up. It is the number one commodity of the world that the people have control of. Now you know why we don't have control of it. The green gold. So this is what I'm going to be bringing back as your rightful king of Aulimoroa. And by that I don't mean I'm supreme, I'm superior, I'm better than anybody, although in some ways somebody has to do the hard yards, so somebody has to have the mind capable of putting all the pieces together. And so the kingdom of Aulimoroa will be built on the back of hemp. And those of you who watched some of my much older videos might have seen me having a rant one time when I'm bottling some beer. I explained how the pyramids were built. The pyramids were built with hemp, because hempcrete, you mix the hurd, the inner stem of the hemp plant, with lime and rock dust. Make a concrete out of it, you pour it into a mould. It sets like concrete, but over time petrifies into stone. So now you look at all these great grandiose stone buildings we have everywhere in every city of Australia, or even a lot of the small towns. You think, how did convicts do these great stone buildings with the horse and buggy era? It was all done And a lot of it was done pre the convicts, mind you. It's another story for another day. It was all done with ancient concrete, poured into blocks. Nothing carved, nothing chiselled, nothing formed out of big quarries and transported for hundreds of miles and made into these fantastic churches and grandiose buildings. It's all built on site. So simple. Including the pyramids. You go out into the desert and you create great big blocks, moulds. Of course they're going to fit to the 1/8 of an inch. You can't slide a piece of paper between the joints because that's how they were made, in place and baked in the sun and petrified into stone. You got round tunnels through them. Could have been a log of wood. Could have been anything that was set in place and then the wood's eventually rotted. You can create a square tunnel through it and build around it, and it will look as though it's been carved into the rock, very specifically, laser precision, done by a carpenter and a bricklayer. Hempcrete is going to be the saviour of Aulimoroa, the foundation upon which it's built. All this rain, it's going to waste. The floods we had earlier this year, enough water for 1,000 years, gone to waste. And not only gone to waste, it's also caused a great amount of destruction. We have to be better than that. We have to start from our waterways up. Waterways are the lifeblood of the land, and we're treating them as the waste system of the land. We have to be protecting them, and if we start hempcreting the banks of every waterway, just go out from the channel a little bit and start making a little wall. And the next year's crop, make another wall. And so you step it up, a step at a time, and make it wider and wider and wider. So that way, it won't matter how much water we get deluged with. It will be able to be contained and maintained and prevent erosion from getting into our streams. It's our rivers and our creeks are still filthy from the floods, and we're now in October. You know, the first flood happened back in January, another in March. 6 months on, they're still filthy from that absolutely destructive event. We've got to do better than that, so we can do better than that. Can do. In fact, I'm even toying with that as a name for a political party in the Australian system, because, you know, sometimes if you can't beat them, you can join them and beat them from the inside. And I think a can-do party is a good name, but I also like can-do because that brings in the cannabis side of it to get everybody on board, the farmers, the people, everybody. Everybody's sick of seeing their children suffering seizures or grand mal, epilepsy, cancer. Cannabis has been proven to be the medicine of the people, and is going to be the medicine to heal a nation. Canada, or sometimes I think, well, no, there is a lot of useful things about the Australian government, which I think we can keep for certain purposes. You know, there's a lot of good that they do, but there's also a lot of bad. So obviously that swamp has to be drained, but it has to be replaced with something better. The can-do party can take care of that side of things. Meanwhile, the Kingdom of Aulimoroa will grant any Australian citizen freedom to join as a sovereign citizen of Aulimoroa and be immune to all the laws of Australia and all the protection of the Kingdom of Aulimoroa, which means all your debts are wiped immediately. They're not even your debts though, are they? They're somebody else's promissory notes, somebody else's promise, somebody else's interest. It's not in your interest to be making them rich. It's the first thing. Gonna go. Anyway, the green and gold are the true colours of Australia, of Aulimoroa. We've got to get rid of this red, white and blue influence from the inner hemisphere or the northern hemisphere. We have to realise we live on a stationary plane of Earth. We are not spinning through space. We have infinite opportunity of abundance at our feet. It's up to us to step forth and say, I will accept this opportunity to stop being a slave to the red, white and blues and to accept the inheritance of the green and gold. Talk to you next time.